Tomorrow, and what a beautiful morning it is indeed too, and a beautiful day as well, and a beautiful day for interviewing as well. We've got Paul from Advanced Business Vision in the studio. We've got Donald from Morecrofts Solicitors, and I'll be talking to them in a moment right after this song. It's great. This is Clean Bandit featuring brilliant tune. That's Clean Bandit, and that's called Come Over. Hope you have come over to Wirral Radio 92.1 FM, DAB, and online, playing your favourite music and interviews and everything happening today. I tell you, anything could happen today. In the studio with me this morning, though, we've got Paul from Advanced Business Vision. Good morning to you, Paul.
Good morning, Nick. Thank you.
And we've got Donald from Morecrofts Solicitors with us.
Morning, Nick.
Morning, and how are you guys today?
Well, great. Lovely sunny day.
Absolutely. Couldn't be any better, could it?
Makes you feel like going out working, doesn't it?
Absolutely, yeah.
Now, Paul, we're talking about businesses today, aren't we?
Yeah, absolutely, yeah.
And about marketing, etc., and how to go forward with businesses. And we'll go straight in. I mean, should there be a lot of emphasis on company image with businesses and marketing, etc.?
Absolutely. A lot of companies today who are starting out, and we discussed an analogy last week with Johnny on air.
Yeah.
The painter and decorators, two brothers who want to start a business. They're very, very good at painting and decorating.
Yeah.
But ultimately, they may not have those key business skills that can take that, business forward and develop. And Donald and I were discussing sort of some serious issues around that and some sort of consequences should they not make the right business decisions. One of those business decisions is about marketing. Marketing is not just about running up a couple of leaflets and sending them out with a local paper. It's a total concept, and should be part of the business planning process before you even start a business. Right. Think of the big players out there. Just because you're a small painter and decorator or a small business on the Wirral or on Merseyside, you should be thinking about the bigger picture. Think about someone like Boots the chemist. Yeah. Think about McDonald's. Think about Virgin. Think about these big companies. What makes them stand out? It's branding.
Yeah.
Branding goes across all the major sort of platforms, which can be your website, your letterheads, your business cards. It's the way you promote your awareness, your brand to the outside world. So for me, branding and marketing go hand in hand and should be a major consideration when companies start businesses. Absolutely.
Brilliant. I mean, you talk about branding there. Obviously, logo.
Absolutely, yeah.
The logo, is that... can any logo look... I mean, you've seen some certain logos which not very 3D, not very sort of just done probably on a bit of cardboard. Yeah. Is it all about the design of a logo or the way the logo looks at you, or what is it what makes a logo?
Well, it's got to look right, and ultimately I flip that on its head and say to the people who are running businesses out there or are thinking of starting a business, the logo is about you and it's about your business and it should reflect what you're about.
Yeah,
it really, really should. If you can't do it yourself, seek some professional advice. It will pay dividends down the line. Yeah. It clearly will. The days when people do it on the back of a fag packet should be well and truly gone. It really should. It's about, just because you haven't got the skill, don't omit it from your business. Bring in that skill to do it for you. One thing I'm a big champion of, Nick, is networking, and we come here to the Wirral Business Networking Group, etc. It's about creating a first impression. So with a business card, make sure your business card is of a good quality, of a good design, and it says exactly what you do. Give your business card, promote your brand with pride. It's as simple as that.
Yeah, I mean, I've seen some business cards can be overly sort of informational, too much information on there, and some too busy basically. So if you're handing someone a business card, it'll be left on the table, and it just like, oh, what the heck, I can't even read that. It could be different 3D colours and stuff. Yeah, by the time they've shined it one way, they've got something out of it. So I've noticed that.
It doesn't have to be too busy. Keep it simple, but get your message across to raise your company brand and awareness. You want someone to look at your business card and think professional, clean, stylish, and away you go, and you'll reap rewards from that, Nick.
Brilliant stuff. Thanks, Paul, on that one. Donald, hi, from Morecrofts Solicitors. Good morning to you as well. Say if I had a business and it was doing really well, and sort of we're looking to grow by sort of creating franchises, what should I be aware of?
Well, I think the first thing is to make sure that you actually do have a model which is suitable for franchising.
Yeah.
Too many people think it's just a quick fix to make lots of money. You have to be very aware of the fact that you've obviously created a business which has, a good reputation. You need to protect that. So when you are going down the franchise route, you need to make sure you've got a proper agreement in place to make sure that image, that reputation is protected, so that those that you're giving franchises to, do what you would expect them to do and protect the brand. When you're just talking to Paul earlier, mentioned logos and so on.
Yes.
Again, a successful business needs to protect its logo, so you can't just use other people's logos at the Golden Arches, as you mentioned, for McDonald's. Or the other food outlets are available.
Absolutely.
So, you have to be careful to make sure that you're only licensing the use of any trademarks, etc. as well, and obviously protecting your own logos by trademarks or patents as well, to make sure that others can't abuse it when you have created that value.
Yeah, I mean, I've seen that. Going about logos, I've actually seen a few logos which look rather similar from other logos. And I mean, how does that? I mean, obviously, how far does that go with sort of copyright? I mean, you've got to think sometimes, and that's isn't that sort of like a bank, and then someone's created something out of that bank. It's very, very close, isn't it? Some of these logos, you'll be very, very, very careful of them. And I believe that you can send them off. Am I right that you can send them off and get them sort of copyrighted, and you send them back as a registered delivery or something? Someone said that in the old days.
It may have changed a lot since then. No, there is a special court, a patents court, which will actually examine any alleged abuse of things like that. But copyright is actually different. I know it's confusing different terms out there, but you can actually protect copyright. All you can do is assert ownership to words that you've created, say in a website or something like that. But certainly the name of the business, its logos, those can be protected and should be.
Right, yeah. A good question here. We say if you'd like to retire from a company and you want to sell shares, for instance, to other shareholders, how do you go about it, and how should the shares sort of be valued?
Okay, well, hopefully the company already has a shareholders agreement in place which regulates how shares will be transferred and how they're to be valued. But if they don't, then you have to look at the articles of the company itself when it was formed, and they will normally provide that whoever wishes to sell the shares has to offer them first to the other shareholders. However, it may not go on to deal with how the shares should be valued, in which case it's either an agreement is reached as to what the shares are worth, or it may be necessary for those shares to be valued by an external accountant.
That's good stuff. Brilliant. Well, we've got Paul from Advanced Business Vision. Donald, thanks very much from Morecrofts. We're talking to you in just a few moments right after this.
Wirral Radio Daytime.
Brilliant tune. That's a great summer tune, I think, as well. That's sorry, I can't even pronounce the name this morning. Do apologise. Need more coffee this morning. That's called 7475. Wirral Radio is DAB and online, and on FM as well, of course. 92.1. Nick Fair with you through till 12 today. In the studio, my guest this morning, Paul from Advanced Business Vision and Donald from Morecrofts this morning. And had a nice little chat off there and caught up with them there as well. Paul, we were talking about we're talking about businesses today, obviously, and surely it's all about selling, because really without that, you're dead in the water, aren't you, about selling businesses?
I mean,
selling yourself.
That's one aspect, and selling your business is vital for you to get income, to get that sales revenue in, which then generates profit. But again, I take that a step backwards, and I would say it's not all about selling, it's all about your customers and your customer base. Without customers, you're not going to sell.
No.
Without sales, you're not going to get any profits. Hence, your business is dead in the water. Selling is a vital part of the whole business mix, as is marketing and business planning and the legal side of it. For me, a business and setting up a business and running a business is about so many different elements, of which selling is one. Most companies out there today would have some type of sales team or a business development team. But the key for me is not just about making that transactional sale. It's not about, I've sold you some widgets, thank you very much, Mr. Customer, now go and fit those widgets and goodbye. It really is about, I've sold you some widgets today. What can we do down the line? How can I add value to your business, and how can I help you grow your business, because I'm providing you with a service or a product. So for me, it's about business relationships with your customers. It's about making sure that you're not just selling to them, but you're making a proper business relationship where they value what you're doing. It really is. And without that, you're dead in the water.
It is really, yeah. I mean, there's so many different things now, isn't there? Years ago, you used to have people handing out leaflets, posters in windows. You've now got, obviously, internet's grown tremendously. You've got apps out there. You've got banners still ticking away, those dreaded banners. Luckily, those pop-ups have stopped since they've been enforced with...
the bane of everybody's life.
Yeah. And obviously, there's a lot of platforms out there now for people to do the marketing. And as you said, it's still very important that that's done right and it's done in a professional manner, because obviously down the line, if it's not looking professional, they might think that business isn't professional.
Exactly. Go back to our first question to me earlier on today about marketing and branding. It's about how you portray yourself out there in the marketplace, whether it be on Twitter, on Facebook, on your website, on your good old-fashioned business card, or even your good old-fashioned handout, your leaflet. It's got to come together. It's got to be right, you know. And a lot of businesses today are using Facebook for Business, which is fantastic. Great tool to get your name out there. And also Twitter. A lot of businesses I speak to say to me, but surely Twitter's for the teenagers. It's for the people who have got nothing better to do. Not really. A lot of businesses are out there really powering ahead, using the power of social media. And that, again, is key to promoting your brand. We're talking about selling, particularly in this slot. A lot of businesses try and are quite successful at getting a message across on Twitter, but it's a sales message. My take on that is on Twitter, and specifically on Facebook, if you're using those two mediums, those two platforms, is to use it as an information. You know, you're giving people free information, which should then entice them to come back to you as a business, as a service provider or a product provider, and really use Twitter and Facebook as a signpost to your website. From then, there's a phone number, there's more information. The customer, the potential customer, can then say, I like what I see on the platforms, on the social media platforms. I'm now going to look on the website, and guess what? Now I'm going to contact that company for some more information. And that's the cycle. That really is the cycle.
Thanks, Paul, for that. Great information indeed. Donald, great question this is. I mean, as well, one of our biggest customers has sort of gone bust, owing lots and lots of money. Is there any chance of sort of getting paid?
It rather depends on how bust they are, which route they've gone down. But it comes back to the previous question, because we talked about sales, and some businesses make the mistake of just selling to anyone and selling at any price. I mean, clearly, you have to make sure that whatever you're selling, you're making some profit on. But assuming that the company has gone bust, I presume it's something like a liquidation. If they've simply supplied services, then frankly, it rather depends on whether the company has any assets to sell when the liquidator's appointed. Normally, you know, if there's any secured creditors like banks out there, they'll get paid first, and it's only after that the other creditors may get paid. But, you know, if they supplied goods and the goods are still on the premises and they've got a proper clause in any terms and conditions they have to say that title to those goods hasn't passed until they've been paid, then it's possible they might at least get their goods back.
That's quite amazing. That, I mean, I've always wondered myself personally how that would go about. I mean, you see a lot of liquidation stuff on auction sites and stuff where people have obviously, you know, gone in and try and get money back to pay creditors and what have you. I mean, the question also, say someone had a previous company that failed and they wanted to set up a new company and carry on as before, and someone had told them that there may be problems with doing this. You know, what do they do? How do they go about it?
Okay, well that raises a number of questions. I mean, when they say they want to carry on as before, do they mean they want to carry on using the same name or something similar to it? Yeah. Because there is a legal bar in doing that, unless you fall within one of the three exceptions allowed. Either you're buying most of the assets from, say, a liquidator of the failed company, or you've got another business with a similar name that's been trading for at least 12 months, or you have to go to court and get leave to be a director of a company with a similar name. Otherwise, you become personally liable for the debts of the new company. And indeed, to carry on as before, obviously, if you owe money to other trade creditors, they may be reluctant to supply the new business and so on, or they may be willing to do so, but charge a greater price for the goods that they're supplying to you. So it's not necessarily straightforward.
Yeah, there's a question there. I mean, obviously, there's you trail through company's house, and there's a few businesses that are dissolved, and whatever. I mean, if somebody wanted to buy another sort of business name, didn't want to use their own, and it was dissolved, how long does it take you to be? You can actually have that business name that's been dissolved, maybe. I mean,
again, it rather depends on why it became dissolved. Right. It's just because it's dissolved doesn't mean there's anything sinister behind that. It's quite possible for a company simply to decide it doesn't want to trade any longer, and to go down a sort of administrative route with Companies House to have the company dissolved. It can always be restored at any time. However, if dissolution happened after a liquidation, for example, then it's unlikely that name's going to become available because the liquidator's out of office after dissolution. So no, you can use a similar name. As long as you weren't a director of the previous company, you could always have like 2015 or something added onto it.
Right.
There's always ways around these things, as long as you just take proper legal advice before you do it.
/ and a dot at the end.
Make a subtle change. Yeah,
that's right. Thanks for that, Donald. That's brilliant. Paul, quick question for you. I mean, the other way around now. If you're thinking of starting up a business, what are the sort of 3 key points should you consider?
Okay, we've mentioned sales, obviously, which is key. Yeah. But there's a mantra. There's a little mantra out there, and it's called "Sales are vanity, profit is sanity." And I think Donald touched on that earlier. So those 2 elements in a business are vital. Without the sales, you're not going to get the profit. But just flipping that on its head again, cash is king. Businesses fail because they chase the big buck. They go out there trying to sell. They may not be monitoring their numbers. They may not be looking at their financial forecasts. And really, they're just running, which is okay, part and par for the course. Yeah. But at some point, you've got to stop. Take a step back, look at your business. Is it making a profit? But more importantly, have you got cash flow? If you haven't got cash flow, you can't pay your wages. Yes. Can't pay your wages, can't pay the rent, can't pay the utility bills, can't do anything. You are, as we said earlier, dead in the water. So for me, it's knowing your numbers and really monitoring your numbers, not so that you're some sort of number geek, because you've got a business to run at the end of the day, but really to keep an eye on those key numbers: profit, sales, cash flow being the number one. The other one is, I would always say to people, we're all busy, and if we take the analogy of the painters and decorators, Mrs. Jones down the road wants her lounge doing, so the guys go and buy the equipment, buy the stuff, and off they go, and they're painting. They're working in their business daily. They are not working on it. The key thing is take a step back, look at how your business is performing. Do you need to do something to tweak your business to make it better? And this can be any business, whether it's a sole trader, a partnership, an SME, or a larger organisation. Take that time as the business owner or director or manager to step back. The analogy for that would be a Grand Prix car going round and round the track. Pull your business into the pits once in a while. Have a tune-up. Have a look. See what's needed. Make some changes. Business is an evolution. It evolves. Nothing is cut in stone. Things change. Make sure that your business can make those changes. And if you're working on your business as well as in it, you're in a far better position to do that.
Brilliant. Paul from Advanced Business Vision there, Donald from Morecrofts Solicitors. We'll be talking some more about businesses and things in a moment. We're going to take a break right now. It's Chic featuring Nile Rodgers. This is called I'll Be There. There we go, at last. It's taken me about a year. I've made myself a jingle. There you go. We're here today talking about from Paul from Advanced Business Vision and Donald from Morecrofts Solicitors. And just continue with Donald. So in January, I was disqualified as a director, just an example, but I would like to become involved in another company. How do you go about that?
The only way of doing it is to actually go to court. Just to briefly explain what disqualification means. It means that the disqualification unit, part of the government department, has decided that in fact you're unfit to be a director of a limited company. And normally it's either by agreement or because a court's ordered you to be disqualified for a certain period of time, minimum of 2 years, maximum of 15. If you want to carry on as a director of another company, you have to make an application to court and persuade a judge basically that despite the fact that the public interest has to be protected, you need to be a director of a particular company for a reason, and it's normally because you're a principal to that business. It can't survive without you. You have to show that there's a lot of employees are going to lose their work if you're not allowed to carry on. But you also have to put in place an offer to the court balances. So for example, you might say, well, I will appoint an external person to be a financial director who will report directly to the court, or you may say that we will have regular reports to the courts ourselves. That's not likely to fly. Or you might actually consider going unlimited, so that means you do become personally liable for the debts of the company. So there's a range of things that a court has to balance up. It has to protect the public interest, but it also has to weigh up the consequence if you're not being allowed to be a director of a company.
What's the worst scenario where probably you're not going to be allowed to be a director of a company again? What director cannot be a director of a company anymore? What's the worst? What one of the big reasons why they can't be?
Oh, one of the reasons for disqualification in the first place.
Would it be fraud or something like that?
It doesn't even have to be fraud necessarily. It can simply be something as simple as failing to keep proper books and records. That's the lower end of the tariff. The upper end of the tariff is something like you've transferred assets belonging to the company for less than they're worth, or you're owed money by the company and you paid yourself rather than the other creditors. There's a range of things that you can be disqualified for, but the important thing is to ensure that going forward those mistakes aren't repeated.
Oh, right. Well, say I set up a company in the 80s and it was proven to be very successful, but I'm worried about the future when I retire, and there's no sort of natural successor with the right skills in place that can actually sort of take over the company. How can I address this?
This typically happens in generational businesses. You may have a great-grandfather set up a business, a real entrepreneur, and then down through the successive generations you find someone who really doesn't have any business sense, and there's no natural successor in the business in place to look after it. There are a number of options in those situations. One is to actually parachute in those with the proper skills and experience, and that provides a sort of a honeymoon period whilst the people who are actually in control of the business have training effectively to give them the necessary skills so they are then able to take over the reins at some stage in the future.
Yeah, absolutely. That's amazing. Yeah, good stuff.
That's good. That Paul. What are some of the key sort of errors made by small business owners?
Wow, how long have we got? No, seriously. We've said about the sales and the profit, and the cash flow is king. They are the key elements, on which businesses do forget about because they're so busy. I think Donald just hit on a cracking point there, what he said about parachuting people in because the business may not have the skills. No. And businesses today sometimes do not have the skills. They're great at what they do, the main service, again, the painter and decorator, but those key business skills, they just may have not got them, for whatever reason. And that's not decrying business people, believe me, it really isn't, but we're all good at what we do. I think for me one of the main things is skimping on things like legal contracts, and my friend here Donald will go on about that much more than I will, but businesses often realise too late that it would have been better to and more prudent to pay to have a solicitor write up proper contracts. That may be something like customers just don't pay invoices. What can we do? Literally, what can we do to get our money? Yeah. It's a legal process. Do you really want to go down that legal process? If your contracts are written up, if your sales invoices have your contract details somewhere, the customer knows the implications of not paying you. So there's one idea. I think customer service for me is a big one. Always has been throughout my business life. When I was back in the late 80s, early 90s in a sales role, it was all about selling. We're often too wrapped up in what we want to do as a business. Think about it from the customer's point of view. Are we adding value? Are we making it right for that customer? It's about giving them the wow factor. It's about expectations. Raise your customers' expectations by giving them over and above what they want. They'll come back to you. It's as simple as that, you know. Last week I talked about strategy, about planning. Planning for me is key. Without the plan, you know, it's going to fail. Fail to plan, plan to fail. Very, very simple. And there's so many more we could talk about, Nick, but, you know.
The time is running out very
Exactly. I'm looking at the clock, yeah.
It's very interesting, this, you know. I'm finding it very interesting doing the show because I've learned quite an amazing lot. I was talking to you off air as well, wasn't I, between the songs and asking different questions. It's very, very, very informational as well.
Thank you.
Mm.
That's wonderful. Well, time has beaten us. You're quite right, Paul. Thanks to Paul from Advanced Business Vision and Donald from Morecrofts Solicitors. Thanks for coming in this morning.
Pleasure, Nick. Thank you.
And as I've been told, you'll be back very, very soon, in fact.
Absolutely.
Thank you very much for calling us this morning. Wirral Radio. Tennis towards the news for the latest news here on Wirral Radio. Here's a great sound from Starship. Nothing's going to stop us.